Good morning. I'm here with Rick Collins, candidate for Overland Park City Council, Ward 6. On behalf of the Johnson County Public Policy Council, thank you, Rick, for being here today. The Johnson County Public Policy Council is made up of 10 chambers of commerce in Johnson County. Our goal is to provide information about public policy issues impacting area businesses. You ready to get started?
I am.
In regard to economic development, it's been argued that incentives aren't necessary because development will occur naturally without them being offered. What is your opinion?
Well, the question begs another question, and that is, how long do you want to wait before something positive happens? And if you take a look at what happened in downtown Overland Park, until the Matt Ross Community Center came through with the city's approval, nothing occurred in downtown Overland Park. And even after Matt Ross came into existence, the Great Recession started. The City Council came up with the form-based code to try to make it easier for development to occur in downtown Overland Park. That didn't even help. So how long do you want to wait? And that's an opportunity cost. Do you want to wait 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? And it just so happened that about 10 years after Matt Ross came into existence, somebody came to the City Council and said, you know what? I think I've got a good idea on a mixed-use development. And it's called interurban lofts. It's an apartment complex with some retail on the ground floor and office on the ground floor. And I'd like to do that at 79th and Concert. The City Council agreed with it. And so we provided, I don't want to call it a tax incentive, I want to call it a tax investment in the future. What the city is doing with these investments is we're allowing whoever is developing the project to keep a portion, not all, but a portion of the property tax, the incremental increase in the property tax for that particular project. Overland Park is still getting the base property tax on that bare piece of ground that existed at 79th and Concert. Plus, we're getting a portion of the incremental increase. So it's not like we're giving anything away. We're not giving something for the developer to put into his hip pocket. These are dollars, future property tax dollars, that he or she can use to leverage for installing new infrastructure into that particular area, new amenities, something that the city is really not willing or can't afford to put in there. And you know what? After we get the interurban lofts, down the street, 80th and Metcalf, somebody else comes in and says, you know that old Cunningham Oldsmobile dealership building and that Sonic building immediately to the south of it that have been vacant for all these years? We've got an idea for that. And sure enough, it's basically the same type of project, an apartment complex with mixed-use development on the ground floor. And they're pretty much full, both of those projects. So we're adding value to the city of Overland Park. We're creating a vibrancy in that area where there was nothing going on. We're creating a density where these folks who are living there, they're going out after work and they're using the restaurants in that area and they're creating a vibrancy that just isn't there. And it's all feeding off on itself. There are more projects that are coming in, more office space so folks have a place to go to work when they wake up in the morning. And there are a lot of other examples around in the city of Overland Park where these tax investments are working. One other one that I'll mention is the Teva building over off of College and Knoll. That particular project is more of an office situation versus mixed use. But that property, before the building was built, was bringing in about $13,000 of property tax revenue each year. That was in 2012. From 2014 through 2017, it's bringing in over $1 million worth of property tax revenue to the city. That's why we're doing what we're doing, and that's why I think it's a good idea to provide an incentive to folks, but to create an investment type atmosphere. You bring in something that will provide something new and different for Overland Park, bring in more jobs, bring in more value, and we'll help you out. We'll invest in that.
Good. What is your opinion on what is commonly referred to as dark store theory? And what do you think Overland Park should be doing today, if anything, to prepare for rulings that favor the plaintiffs?
Well, the city of Overland Park has a history of preparing for downturns. Our previous administration had to deal with the Great Recession that started in 2007 and started cutting back. Right now, our current city manager is looking at the so-called dark store theory and the possible impact that it will have on the city of Overland Park. And part of the problem there is there are two elements in that equation that are somewhat difficult to pin down. We don't really know what the courts are going to say about the Board of Tax Appeals decision on this method of appraising the large box stores. That's problem number one. Number two, we don't know, we meaning the city of Overland Park, Johnson County appraiser, excuse me, nobody can tell us what sort of dollar amount we should be preparing for to make up. So in the absence of those two elements to the equation, all we can really do is keep an eye out on property tax revenue, sales tax revenue, and I've heard some folks say, well, we've got a budget that's in the red, which is an interesting concept because under state statute, you can't be in the red. You can only spend what you bring in. And so we're looking at our revenues, and if an adjustment needs to be made, which is what the previous city manager had to do, make a downward adjustment on laying people off, cutting back on certain services, our current city manager will do the same thing with the blessing of the city council. So we're keeping an eye on it, as we should. We should understand full well that this is something that is really beyond our control, but we're going to have to deal with it. But the fact that it is beyond our control also adds another element to the conversation. There's a little bit of ambiguity in the state statute on how we should be evaluating property. But the appraiser, Johnson County appraiser, has been using the method that is most used by other appraisers, and that is what kind of value does this property generate? And look at comparables, like comparable sales for that property, particularly in the residential area, and the same applies in the commercial and office arena. So that's something that maybe the state legislature needs to take a look at. And so while the city is keeping an eye on this, I think it's incumbent upon our voters to contact their state legislators and say, look, if there's an ambiguity here that the Court of Tax Appeals is looking at, maybe we need to address that, maybe we need to get rid of that ambiguity so that we can be more stable in terms of projecting our property and sales tax values that are coming in. After all, we can only spend what we bring in and nothing more and nothing less.
Housing affordability is addressed in Forward OP, and it's a topic of considerable discussion among employers. What do you think the City of Overland Park should be doing to address this problem?
Well, the Urban Land Institute just recently came out with some commentary on the subject, and they're looking at it not as affordable housing, but as attainable housing, because it means different things to different people. How much money can you afford to put towards a mortgage payment and then the utilities and property taxes, that sort of thing. But whether you call it attainability or affordability, I'm not sure that we fully understand all the barriers to all of that. In Ward 6 that I represent, I would say quite candidly that most of those folks out there like what they have, which is a 1 acre lot or something along the line of a ½ an acre, 2-story house. Some of these homes are $1 million, but that's what they want, and that's what the market will bear out in my ward. If we're going to do affordable housing for those folks who don't have access to housing in Overland Park, we're going to have to change our mindset, and we may have to very well do something in some of our more mature neighborhoods. When I was on the Planning Commission, we had a proposal, which we finally passed, to get to a smaller lot size. For example, R1, you've got a 30-foot setback from the street to the front of the house. We put in a new zone, R1A, that would allow you to have only a 15-foot setback. The side setbacks went from 15 feet down to 6 feet. The point being, you could put more housing on a smaller lot or the same size lot, thereby making it more affordable for other folks who want to come in. that is already in existence, but it doesn't seem to be working. In fact, we just had come before the city council a project in the northern part of the city on a corner lot that a developer came in, wanted to put another house there that was somewhat consistent with the current pricing levels in that area, and unfortunately a number of the neighbors were opposed to it. So we've got this mindset that is creating a barrier, along with perhaps some other design guidelines that we need to take a look at and review. But I think the concept is well deserved. I think it would be more beneficial for us, bringing a more diverse population to provide that sustainability and that diversity that we're looking for in forward OP. So I'm all for it, but we've got to come up with ideas to go through the barriers that we're finding that are opposing this concept.
In the short term, it appears we can keep our mill levy unchanged to meet current budget obligations. However, sluggish sales tax collections and increased demands on infrastructure from growth could necessitate a change. What are your thoughts on our current budget and the outlook for the future?
The current budget is what it is, and I'm assuming you're talking about the 2019 budget versus the 2020 budget, which we have already passed. But as I previously mentioned, our city government is taking a look at our revenue streams in relation to our expense obligations. We can only spend what we bring in. So that is the deciding factor on what we have to do. It would be nice if we could increase our revenues, and the only way to do that is by increasing our mill levy. We reduced our mill levy in 2017, but I think that our current administration is open and receptive to the possibility that we may have to increase our mill levy. It's not something that we want to do because we enjoy the lowest mill levy of any first-class city in Johnson County, and that's what we want to maintain. Our citizens expect that. Our citizens continuously tell us through our citizen surveys that public safety, infrastructure, public amenities, those are the top three things that they expect us to provide for them. And we have consistently done that. We've got accolades from various reporting agencies that tell us we're the best place in which to live, best place to raise a family, the best place to be an entrepreneur, and so on. And we're able to do that consistent with our current ability to provide those services that we do provide. But we have to keep in mind that there is that possibility that those revenues will decrease. And we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to be prepared to deal with it. And I think our city administration is, and I know the city council is as well.
The governors of Kansas and Missouri have recently forged a truce in the so-called economic border war. Do you support their actions, and what impact do you believe their agreement will have on Overland Park?
I do support their actions. The theory of cross-border intervention just doesn't sit well with me, but I know Overland Park doesn't go out and poach other companies to come in from Missouri into Overland Park. I know the Economic Development Council just doesn't work that way. Does that mean that we won't talk to somebody else who comes in from, say, the state of Missouri or Oklahoma or Nebraska? No, of course not. We will sit down and visit with them. But I don't know that this is something that we need to really concentrate on because, after all, we do have a good environment here, a good, healthy environment for business in which to thrive. And I think it's fair to say, when I talk to the folks at the Economic Development Council, they tell me that while tax investment is something that companies will look at, their primary concern is the labor force. It's the workforce that they want to have in their company. They want intelligent, well-educated folks, and to get those folks, we're going to have a city that has good infrastructure, good schools, stable mill levy, and the amenities that folks want to have in order to live here. So it's one of those things where I don't know that the agreement that Governor Parsons and Governor Kelly have reached is going to have a significant impact on how we do business here and how we grow our city, but it's a good start, and it's something that I think we should at least look at. But going forward, I'm not convinced that the impact is going to be as significant as creating a quality of life environment that we do.
And as we wrap up, tell us why you're seeking public office. What do you believe most distinguishes you from your opponent in the race, making you best suited to serve?
Well, first of all, I want to leave Overland Park a better place than when I found it. I've been associated with this city for 25 years, starting off with the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce and serving as its chairman. Then after that, 10 years on the Overland Park Planning Commission, and then for the last 8+ years on the Overland Park City Council. So I know where the city has been, I know where it is now, and I think I know that the current path we're on is going to get us where we want to go. After I first got elected, I was interviewed by the League of Women Voters, and the most prominent question that they asked me was, what's going to be your biggest challenge now that you're a new city council representative? And my response was very simple, just don't screw it up. We've had previous administrations who saw what we had here in Overland Park, and that's what I want to continue doing. I think it's my experience on the Overland Park Board of Directors, on the Overland Park Planning Commission, and on the City Council that has given me the experience that I think our voters can trust. I'm not here to talk about anybody else. I just think that I can provide the experience that our voters need and want, and to help us go down the path that somebody else has started. Having said that, I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here today, and I want to thank all 10 chambers that have put this program on. I think it's a valuable resource, and I appreciate the opportunity to get my word out, and particularly my love for Overland Park for the past 25 years.
Well, Rick, thanks for joining us this morning, and we wish you the best of luck with this year's election.
Thank you very much.